You feel it before you understand it. A shift in the air, a tone that cuts just a little too sharp, a smile that hides a blade, a comment dressed like a joke but aimed straight at your spine. And for a long time, you've told yourself to ignore it, to keep the peace, to be the bigger person. But deep down, you know the truth. Toxic people don't stop because you're kind. They stop when you become unreadable. This is the part no one teaches you. You've carried this longer than you admit. The weight of pretending things don't affect you. The burden of swallowing disrespect until it burns your tongue. The silent belief that if you just stay patient, they'll change. But they won't. Not because you're weak, but because toxic people only understand consequences, not compassion. So tonight you're going to learn what Machiavelli would have taught you in the dark halls of power. How smart people handle toxic people without raising their voice, explaining themselves, or losing an inch of power. And once you learn this, nothing and no one will ever control your emotional world again. You've always sensed that some people look harmless on the surface, but the silence underneath their laughter feels wrong. They study you like terrain. They test you with jokes. They monitor your reactions like a scientist observing prey. And here's the whisper that has lived inside you for years. They only treat you this way because you never learned a different dance. You're not broken. You were never taught another way. So let me give you the forbidden map, the one Machiavelli carved into the minds of men who needed to survive courts filled with smiles sharper than knives. But before you learn how to deal with toxic people, you need to know the truth. Toxic people don't begin with cruelty. They begin with calibration, a long stare, a small push, a subtle disrespect, a question delivered like bait. And every time you explain yourself, every time you justify, every time you react, you give them data. Because as Machiavelli revealed, the person who reacts emotionally gives away their power. Every time you flinch, they adjust. Every time you soften, they sharpen. Every time you defend yourself, you tell them exactly how to hurt you next time. But today that ends, because you're about to learn 15 moves that make toxic people feel like they're walking on glass around you. Not through cruelty, but through psychological precision. And as we move through these tactics, notice the threads pulling you deeper. Why do toxic people hate silence? Why does distance break them? Why does calmness provoke them more than anger ever could? These questions will follow you through every segment, tightening like a net. Here comes your first psychological shift, the one that makes everything snap into focus. Toxic people do not fear being wrong. They fear being exposed. That's why when you confront them emotionally, they stay calm. But when you go quiet, they panic. Silence is pressure. Stillness is a mirror. When distance is a sentence. You survive things you still don't have words for. And toxic people sense that. They saw the softness you thought was invisible. They saw the ache you tried to hide. They saw the part of you that wanted connection so badly, you tolerated disrespect to keep the peace. But here's the turn. You were not weak. You were generous. And they mistook your generosity for an invitation. From this moment on, you will treat every toxic interaction like a test, not of your patience, but of your power. Instead of defending, you observe. Instead of reacting, you calculate. Instead of chasing, you pull away. And the moment you do this, even once, the entire dynamic flips. There's a hidden threat in every toxic person. Not the loud insults, not the explosive drama, not even the manipulation you can sense like smoke in the air. The real threat is this. They want to drag you into a world where they control the tempo, where your reactions empower them, where your emotions feed them, where your explanations weaken you, where your confusion makes them feel strong, where your silence, if you use it wrong, becomes suffocation instead of strategy. And here's the most Machiavellian truth of all. Toxic people survive by making you believe you're the unstable one. So let me show you a darker truth hidden beneath that. Every toxic person is terrified of three things: people who see through them, people who don't react to them, people who don't need them. You are about to become all three. But before you strike your first psychological blow, you need to understand the real battlefield. Toxic people don't attack your strength. They attack your uncertainty. That place inside you that whispers, what if they're right about me? What if I'm difficult? What if I'm too sensitive? What if I'm the problem? No, you're not imagining this. This is the moment your life begins to make sense. Because the people who tried to control you weren't responding to your weakness. They were responding to your potential power. Your self-doubt was the doorway. Their toxicity walked through it. And now you're closing that door forever. Here is the core revelation. The one that breaks your old identity clean in half. Toxic people don't fear your anger. They fear your clarity. Clarity is lethal. Clarity makes you quiet. Clarity makes you detached. Clarity makes you unpredictable. Clarity makes you too expensive to manipulate. This is why Machiavelli warned, do not let people understand you fully. Confusion is leverage. Toxic people cannot survive in environments where you don't explain yourself. You don't reward bad behavior. You don't return their energy. You don't respond instantly. You don't need their approval. You don't fear being misunderstood, because when you stop trying to be liked, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is dangerous to anyone who survives on your reactions. So here it is. Toxic people lose power the moment you stop needing to prove anything to them. You don't argue back. You don't justify. You don't flinch. You just stand there in your silence. And their whole strategy collapses. Now we enter the emotional microscenes. The moments where your transformation becomes visible in small, devastating ways. You're at a table. Someone makes a joke about you. Everyone watches for your reaction. You don't laugh, you don't defend, you don't soften the moment. You simply tilt your head, just a fraction, and let a slow, unreadable stillness fill the room. Their smile dies first, their confidence collapses second, and the room recalibrates around your silence. You're on the phone, a toxic person tries to guilt you. Instead of explaining, you say, noted, calm, closed, final. They scramble for emotional traction. You give them none. You're with a friend who takes more than they give. They start complaining again. This time you don't soothe them. You let the silence sit heavy. They feel it. They adjust. A relative tries to drag you into chaos. You answer with distance. I don't see it that way. Nothing more. They were hoping for drama. You gave them the end of the conversation. These are not small moments. These are psychological earthquakes. And as you keep listening, you'll learn all 15 Machiavellian tactics. Each one sharper, colder, quieter. Each one designed to make toxic people expose themselves without you lifting a finger. But for now, feel the shift inside you. It's okay to feel this. You're allowed to want more than survival. You're allowed to want peace that doesn't require you to shrink. And when you step into segment 7, you'll walk into the room as a different person. One who knows how to see toxic people before they speak, how to disarm them without reacting, and how to make them fear losing access to you. You walk into the room differently this time. Not louder, not tougher, not guarded, just still. A stillness that makes people glance twice without knowing why. A stillness that makes toxic people hesitate before opening their mouths. A stillness that whispers, you can no longer touch me the way you used to. You feel the floor under your footsteps as if it recognizes you now. You feel the air slow when you enter, like it's studying the new shape of your presence. You notice how people adjust their posture, how their voices soften, how their eyes flick away. But the toxic ones, they freeze first, because toxic people can smell emotional availability like wolves smell blood. And tonight, you carry none. You see one of them already watching you. They're used to you being predictable, warm, explainable. They're used to your emotional transparency. They're used to the old version of you. The one who absorbed disrespect quietly, who defended their intentions, who softened tension with apology. But you've stepped into the Machiavellian state of mind. You don't attack, you don't retreat, you simply become unreadable. And that unreadability makes them shift in their seat. You watch it happen, the micro-fear in their eyes, the sudden awareness of your silence. Because predators only feel powerful when they understand their prey. But the moment the prey becomes unpredictable, the predator feels hunted. Tonight, you are that unpredictability. And as you walk deeper into the room, people start wondering, why does your silence feel so intentional? Why is your gaze so calm? Why does your presence feel heavier than your words? They don't know yet, But they're about to learn. Now the curiosity threads begin to tighten. Your presence, your silence, your new equilibrium. Toxic people feed on chaos, but tonight you give them nothing. And nothing is a weapon they've never been trained to handle. You sit, you speak only when required. Your voice is calm, level, slow, no emotional leakage. Machiavellian restraint wrapped in quiet precision. You watch them fidget. You watch them search your face for signs of the old you. You watch their confusion bloom as you offer none. There's power in the things you no longer do. You no longer explain yourself. You no longer rush to fill the silence. You no longer justify your emotional truths. You no longer smooth over their insecurities. You no longer volunteer warmth to people who weaponize it. And the toxic one closest to you feels it first. They make a comment, subtle, biting, disguised as humor. Before you would have reacted, before you would have defended, before you would have explained the misunderstanding. But now you look at them with a steady, almost curious detachment. A calm so cold it makes their throat tighten. Is that how you meant to say that? Your voice is soft, almost gentle. But the question lands like a blade, not because it's sharp, but because it exposes them. Amen. They weren't expecting the mirror. They weren't expecting the stillness. They weren't expecting you. Suddenly, they're the one scrambling to clarify their own words. Suddenly, they're the one asking themselves if they crossed a line. Suddenly, the room is watching them instead of you. And as they talk too fast, too nervously, too emotionally, you remain still. Their words unravel. Your silence tightens. And the room begins to understand. You are no longer someone to test. But this is just the beginning. Because as you sit there, something else is unfolding. A deeper curiosity. If quiet confidence does this much damage, what happens when you start using Machiavellian tactics intentionally? That question lingers, hungry. Now comes the rhythm break, the moment where the world around you shifts. Subtly at first, then unmistakably. You sense the tension. The toxic one feels exposed, a little shaken, unsure how to navigate the new version of you. They try again. A softer jab this time, less confident, more desperate. But you don't give them the performance they want. You let silence answer for you. Not passive, not weak, strategic, weighted. The silence grows heavy enough that they lean forward and as if trying to fill the void before they drown in it. And just as their voice starts to rise in pitch, you cut the moment with 4 words. I don't engage that. Not emotional, not angry, not sharp, just final. A boundary carved in marble. The energy collapses instantly. Their last flicker of confidence dies in their eyes. The room takes a breath because they just saw something dangerous. A person who doesn't flinch, doesn't justify, doesn't fight on anyone else's terms. And now, you feel something rising inside you. Not pride, not ego, something deeper. Clarity, strength, quiet dominance that requires no volume. A presence so steady it feels like gravity. And it creates suspense. Because now everyone wonders, what will you do next? What happens when the toxic person tries a bigger move? What happens when you show the full power of strategic distance? What happens when you stop being accessible altogether? These questions hang in the air like smoke, and you let them. Now you deliver the stealth influence, woven so smoothly into the emotional fabric that it doesn't feel like guidance. You turn your attention to the person beside you, and your voice drops into a softer, grounded tone. You know, life gets a lot quieter when you stop responding to people who only understand drama. You don't smile, you don't explain, you simply let the truth fall. Someone across the room nods slowly. Someone else shifts their weight as if the sentence hit a bruise they never acknowledged. Even the toxic one feels the meaning, though they pretend not to. The energy in the room tilts toward you again. Not because you demanded it, but because you became the emotional anchor. People always follow anchors. They always listen to the calmest voice. They always respect the person who needs no approval. And your presence whispers something dangerous. If you continue evolving like this, toxic people won't just fear losing control over you. They'll fear losing access to you. The more you step into this new identity, the more they feel the distance, the more they sense the consequence, the more they chase the approval they once took for granted. And you realize something quietly powerful. You never needed to fight toxic people. You only needed to become untouchable. One dangerous poetic closing line. You stop fearing toxic people the moment you realize they can only hurt the version of you that no longer exists.